Many of our teachers that were invited to attend happen to have conflicts with classes at this time, so this webinar is being recorded, and we'll share this with our network afterwards. So once again, welcome to our back to school webinar. I hope that you all had a wonderful, relaxing, and enjoyable summer thus far. I know that many of you, particularly in the Southeast, have returned to school already, and we have been very, very busy registering schools, turning on practice tests, activating our rolling test session in case there are some students already interested in taking the post-test. So it's been a very busy August thus far, and we're really looking forward to a breakthrough year. So on that note, I'd like to introduce our president, who many of you know already, David Anderson, who's going to share some insights for you all on the current landscape of financial education in our country. David?
Thank you, and let me echo our thanks to you all. And I guess some of you have started school year already. Some of you have a couple more weeks before the school gets back on the session. But you know, again, echoing, I hope that you had a great summer, and also echoing our thanks to you for your tremendous support over the years. This is our 25th anniversary as an organization, and if I think back to when I started at WISE, which was about 15 years ago, only 5 states in the country required students to take a standalone course on personal finance as a graduation requirement. It was Utah, Missouri, New Jersey, Virginia, and Tennessee. And so, you know, having a webinar like this back then, there was only a 1 in 12 chance that any one of you might come from those states. And so, you know, back then, if you were teaching personal finance, it was a fairly new, relatively new discipline in high school curricula. But also, in some ways, we were battling against a tide because there wasn't really, at the policy level or at educational level, there wasn't so much impetus to having students take a course on personal finance. That has totally changed. As those of you who've been following the trends, particularly since COVID, I think I'm right in saying that there's now 25 states in the country, with California being the latest, to introduce a requirement that high school students have to take a course on personal finance. So a webinar today, I look out on the tiles, essentially 1 in 2 of you now come from states where they have this requirement. And it doesn't mean that there weren't districts over the years that had a mandate saying, you know, out the students in this district have to take personal finance as a graduation requirement, but it was more of a district mosaic as opposed to a national mosaic. And so I think today I'm pleased to share that, and delighted to share actually, that by 2028, 40% of high school students across the country will be in that situation where they will have to take a standalone course on personal finance to graduate. And that doesn't mean that the other 25 don't have content standards, they don't have courses that integrate personal finance into another course, such as economics or business math or something like that. But the research generally does show that having a standalone course on personal finance really has some advantages potentially over a unit within another course. Doesn't mean that a unit isn't a terrible thing. It's a very good thing. In the state where we're located, New York, personal finance generally is taught as a unit within the required economics course, and that works just fine. But I do feel that as people like you who are passionate about teaching personal finance to the students in your school to help them graduate financially literate, I think we do have a tailwind, and there'll be a pause. We're a partner of an organization called FinEd 50, and it's an organization that was formed by Visa that has a great interest in financial education, as well as one of our partner organizations, who many of you know, which is the Council for Economic Education. And the goal of FinEd 50 is, as the name suggests, it's financial education in 50 states. And so there's real work taking place by this organization as well as others to expand the network of states that will require personal finance. And we just had a FinEd 50 call yesterday, and although this is an election year, and in an election year things tend not to happen politically, and so we're not hopeful that another state will pass legislation this year saying your high schools have to teach personal finance. But we have, as a group, as the FinEd 50 group, we've got a set of target states that as partners we're working with to encourage organizations to encourage the legislature, or to make the legislatures in these states aware of the benefits of financial education. So we're very excited by this momentum. I think the research from academics clearly shows that the great instruction that you're providing to your students in the area of personal finance, the knowledge is sticky. I mean, for years there was a question mark as to whether financial education had an effective long-term impact on people's financial behaviors. And there was a reasonable debate about that for a number of years. But I think the recent research is increasingly showing that students that learn personal finance, whether it's high school, middle school, or whether they start in elementary school, I mean, frankly, the earlier the better. But if they graduate high school with a sound knowledge of personal finance, that knowledge is sticky, and it does affect their financial behaviors positively on a longitudinal basis. All of our research, we measure through the surveys that you administer to your students with our test. We do measure the impact, not just through our test of their knowledge, but we do measure the impact of your great instruction on their financial habits. And universally, the results of those surveys are positive, that students, because of your instruction, are more budgeting more, they are setting more financial goals. More of them are opening banking accounts, more of them are starting to open savings accounts. So all the stars, I think, are aligned towards more states requiring personal finance, more legislatures, more educational policymakers feeling encouraged to incorporate personal finance into the curriculum. And so I feel that we're on, as I said, I think we have tailwind. You could say we're on the cusp of a wave. I mean, whatever metaphor you'd like to use, I think we're in a good place starting this school year. So thank you again. I will turn back to Dario and Neil to continue with this webinar, and just leaves for me to say thank you again. Thank you.
Thank you very much, David, for those valuable insights. Hopefully you teachers agree and feel that all your effort is being validated by various departments of education across the country that are kind of formalizing this agreement that we have with you and students to continue to advance financial education in the classroom. So again, we're very optimistic and thankful that that financial education and its inherent value is being recognized across the country in so many ways. So we'd like to begin with some new announcements. We have redesigned and revamped many of our core financial literacy certification documents. These are all shared with your designated WISE school coordinator, or if you happen to come from a smaller school, perhaps you are the WISE coordinator as well as the test administrator. So you are the single point of contact in this case, and you will be receiving all of our core documents, which again have been updated and refreshed and redesigned. So we'll be sending those out as soon as we receive your registration form. And if you haven't received your registration form yet, please don't hesitate to reach out to us and we'll happily get that over to you. We really want to make ourselves available to address any questions you may have specific to your administrative responsibilities in Program Workshop, which of course is our testing platform. So we'd like to, thank you, Jennifer. Can you also share your email? We'd like to streamline the administrative process as much as possible. So if you're wondering how to create a class in Program Workshop, assign students to it, how to administer a test, please feel free to reach out to us by email or phone anytime. But I'm excited to announce that this year we are going to begin having regularly scheduled office hours. So I'd like to ask Neil to introduce this and provide you the logistics on all that.
Thanks, Dario. And just want to say hello to everyone. As you mentioned, Carolyn has left the team and I will be taking over her role. So you'll be seeing a lot more of my face and hearing more of my voice over the coming year. And I'm excited to get work with all of you. And yeah, as Dario mentioned, I mean, I know there's a lot of ins and outs of the system, and just to be more available to you guys, of course, always available by email, by phone, and things like that. But we're also going to set up a weekly office hours for you guys. So starting the week after Labor Day, so September 3rd, every Tuesday from 2 to 3 p.m. Eastern Time. We will have a Zoom room open and available for you guys to be able to drop in and ask questions, as Dario mentioned, you know, whether that's about setting up students or moving students, setting up different testing sessions, how to run the practice tests. I mean, you know, whatever question you might have, just to give you guys a little bit of added availability and a regular schedule, right? So again, that's going to be every Tuesday from 2 to 3 p.m. Eastern Time, and we'll share the Zoom link with all of you. So, you know, if you guys have a burning question or just want to be able to chat with us face to face about something, we are happy to be here for you guys. So again, nice to meet you all and looking forward to working with you.
Great. Thank you very much for that, Neil. We certainly look forward to seeing many of you at an upcoming office hour. And if this is a pilot of sorts, by the way. So if that happens to not be a popular time, 2 to 3 Eastern on Tuesdays, please let us know and we'd be happy to add more time or change the designated hour. Wanted to give you all a update on the number of questions that are going to be scored this fall. You may have noticed with our spring testing forms that we introduced 5 pilot sample questions in the spring, which were not scored as a result. So instead of the typical 50 questions on our forms for the students, we only scored 45 because we wanted to do some empirical analysis on the 5 piloted questions after the spring windows had closed and validate that they were actually good questions. They were challenging and meeting our expectations. So beginning with this fall's testing sessions, we will revert back to the more familiar and straightforward 50 form question. So all 50 questions will be graded, and you will no longer see the unusual odd scores that were apparent in spring testing. And just so you know, we also sent a broadcast email announcing this early in the spring, just to avoid any possible confusion that you and your students may have had. But we are going back to the 50 questions, The cut score remains 66%. And of course, we offer up to 2 retakes every semester. So three passes at the prize in the fall. Another 3 passes are available to students in the spring. And we actually had a very busy, a record number of students tested with us in the summer. So we have several test sessions for you to consider in the summer if you need in 2025. Any questions to that announcement? Okay. Moving on. We will be returning to some professional development activities this upcoming school year. First and foremost, we will be reintroducing our Money Power Conference. Many of you may remember this very informative professional development conference that we used to host here in New York City. And then due to the COVID pandemic, we needed to put that on pause. But we have received funding and access to a very beautiful and generous office space at FINRA's offices in Lower Manhattan. So I'd like to personally invite all of you to join us on December the 6th here in New York City. It's going to be a full day of meetings, the conference that will be keynoted. We're still looking for a dynamic speaker, and we'll have several breakout sessions. But the objective of the conference is designed to help you achieve financial literacy certification more easily with your students. So leveraging, of course, our state-of-the-art testing platform program workshop, in addition to our wonderful practice test feature and scores and analytics that are embedded in the testing platform. We really want to make you very comfortable with the platform. So please consider coming to New York City in early December. I happen to know that the Rockefeller Center Christmas tree will be lit up by then, and New York City is always a festive occasion to visit in early December, just before the holidays begin. Also happening, Jennifer, we will send out a registration link later this fall. Thank you for your question. Also here in New York, we had a wonderful and very exciting video competition that was subsidized by one of our funders, Bread Financial, last spring, in which New York City public school students were challenged to create a point of view video, something, for example, that you would see on TikTok or maybe Snapchat or Instagram, telling us about why financial education, financial literacy is so important to them. So as you can imagine, these students are very savvy with their video skills. They were really creative and fun and entertaining to watch. So Bread Financial was so impressed with the results, they have decided to increase the size of the grant, and we are scaling to all of New York State. So for teachers on the call from New York State, we would like to invite you and your students to participate in this video competition later this fall. And I can tell you that there is significant prize money available to winners. So really looking forward to the second iteration of our video competition. And hopefully, if all goes well, we'll be sharing some more exciting news if Bread Financial decides to make this a national competition. I think that would be really a great goal to have. Next, I'd like to share some updates in terms of our conference attendance. We really like to get out the door and to regional and national conferences where business educators, personal finance educators like yourselves come and can network with vendors. We also offer our WISE educator test at most of these conferences. So if you're looking to get certified financially literate as an educator, please consider coming to one of these. This past July, we were in Charlottesville attending the Virginia Business Educators Association annual conference, where we exhibited. We also tested many teachers from Virginia, and it was a great networking opportunity. So recognizing that many of you on this call are from Virginia, I just wanted to note that. But coming this fall, we will be going to the Pennsylvania Business Educators Association Conference in Harrisburg to exhibit and test teachers. The state of Pennsylvania has enacted legislation, as David mentioned, one of the states that we are closely tracking, where there is now a mandated course in economics and personal finance for Pennsylvania high school students. So hopefully they will consider working with us. We will also be going to the National Council of Economic Education Conference at the end of September in Cleveland. That will have a national audience of educators. There again, we will be exhibiting as well as testing educators. We will also be going to the Jumpstart National Conference. We happen to be a National Jumpstart partner and their New York State designated local partner. So at Jumpstart, we will be also exhibiting and testing educators. So please do consider those conferences. We hope to see you there. Next, I'd like to share some notable enhancements that we have delivered to the practice test. The practice test, for those who are not yet familiar with it, is a great resource that we have co-located and embedded in Program Workshop. So this is very convenient for you all because it's really the same application that you use otherwise to test students. So the pre-test, of course, is located here, all of our post-test sessions as well. But the practice test is the new and improved Money Power practice test. So if you are familiar with Money Power, that's our legacy practice test. It still is available. However, we have dedicated our strategic focus to this practice test that I'm talking about now. Again, it's located in Program Workshop. And please let us know if you have any questions about it. We're seeing some tremendously positive and favorable results where we have done some A/B comparison studies looking at a pool of students that participated in the practice test and those that did not. And inevitably, those students that did participate in the practice test and were given many assignments to hone their skills in financial education, those students outperformed their peers on the post-test. So students that did not take the practice test did a little bit worse than their peers who did take the practice test. So the practice test, again, for those who don't know about this feature yet, I'd just like to provide a little backgrounder. Gives you the option to create a scheduled test where you identify a date, like a veritable deadline, where the students have to complete the practice test, or you can choose an anytime practice test setting, and then the deadline is effectively open-ended. And then you can choose from one of 5 subject matter areas, such as banking, investments, credit, and so forth. All of these map to actual questions on the post-test. So it really does simulate quite well the student experience on the post-test. And You can also consider selecting basic, medium, or difficult questions, as well as the number of questions ranging between 15 and I believe 35 is the highest number. You can really easily lever up and level down the difficulty or the subject matter as you choose. We highly recommend it. So please consider the practice test. What we've done this year is we've refreshed the artwork. So we have a new picture here greeting you on the landing page. More importantly, we have introduced a ribbon, a navigation ribbon, as you can see here on the x-axis, going left to right, where you can set up classes, run some reports, add users affiliated with the administrative aspect of WISE at the school, and all the other features have been carried forward, but they are now being represented in this ribbon navigation. Moving on to the test administration screen. I think the orientation here is all that has been changed. So you will create a session name as you have done previously while administering the test. Of course, the session name can be anything that you like, such as your name, economics, or period 3. And then below that, you will have a drop-down menu offering you all of the test sessions that you would like to choose. So currently we have the pre-test. The fall pre-test is active, and you can test with your students using that. We have also activated all of our fall rolling test sessions. These are test sessions that are made available to schools that have a need to test with the post-test their students right now, because the regular fall post-test opens much later in the fall. I think it's middle of November. So we really want to accommodate your testing needs. So you shouldn't feel encumbered to wait if you have demand to test. So please let us know when you're available, and we'll simply turn on the test session that you require. And just again, as a refresher, as soon as you create the test session and identify the name of the test session, the application will generate a session number, which you will then provide to your students. They will go to a different URL. It is financialliteracy.starttest.com, where they will create a simple login. I'll get to that in a moment, because we have changed the way in which students will be logging into that site this year. And then you simply wait here, and you will see yourself being prompted to approve each student once they register themselves to commence testing. The prompt here will appear here on the screen, and all you have to do is approve them. I do want to note that we have a column here attributed to accommodations. It's just abbreviated ACCOM. Please note that if your student requires accommodations such as extra time or text-to-speech, or if you need to suppress the timer entirely, the accommodations need to be set in the student profile prior to the beginning of the test, of course. So unfortunately, you cannot set the accommodation here, but you would have to go back to the students page, navigate to the student that requires the accommodation, and then just simply add the accommodation there. And then the accommodation flag will be initially set to no. And then once you set it on the student profile, it will change to yes. which will of course indicate that the accommodation has been committed or accepted. And then you will see a timer indicating how much time is left for each student's test. It'll count down from 50 minutes. And then finally, you should see a completion marker indicating that the student has completed and submitted the test successfully. And as you are probably aware, the score report is available immediately, again, in Program Workshop. And you would just simply go to the reports screen located on this link up here. Please interrupt if you have any questions. If none, let's move on to what the students will experience. So again, once you create the test session, please provide that number to the students. They will transcribe it into this field here. This again is financialliteracy.starttest.com. They will click submit. Assuming that they have not registered yet, which is, I think, the vast majority of students, because this is a new school year, they will select the No, I have not registered radio button, click on the Create Account button, and then moving on to the next page. Here, I want to highlight that we have removed the requirement for students to give us their self-created username and password. Last year, we were frankly inundated with many duplicate usernames. Students inadvertently created or couldn't remember their usernames if they had to do a retake, for example. And while teachers could reset their password, it got gummed up because they could not reset their username. So that has now been replaced with the following workflow. Here we are asking students to provide identifiers that they hopefully will not be able to forget, which are namely their first name, their last name, and their date of birth, and just limited to month and day. So although we are compliant with FERPA and other privacy regulations, we want to only capture the absolute minimum number of student personal information data. Really, frankly, that's all we require. So hopefully this will be well received by students and really streamline the login process, and we will be able to reduce the number of duplicate logins. So I believe that highlights all of the changes that we're introducing to the practice test and the view that you teachers see as administrators in Program Workshop, as well as the student experience as they're logging in to take the test. Next is the practice test itself. This is a screenshot of the student's registration, followed by a separate login process. So we have not yet linked the login for the student practice test with the student test itself. That will be scheduled for a future release. But for the moment, students will be going to a different website for the practice test. And it's a very similar login process to the student test. Again, if they have not registered, they would select the top radio button, followed by their first, last name, and month and day of birth. And then once they do that, They can log into the practice test. For the practice test, the teachers are asked to provide students with an authorization code once their practice test is created. And this is how students will navigate to their school name and the actual practice test that the teacher has created. We are also mapping the results of the student test this year back to teachers in program workshop. So previously, teachers could only see a very high-level score report of the number of questions that the student answered correctly in the practice test and the total number of questions. While the student could access much more granular detail in questions, such as which question was answered incorrectly and the rationale for why it was answered incorrectly. So all this data will now flow across to your side of the aisle, and you will now be able to view the student more detailed score on the practice test. Terrific. Okay, so that sums up all the major changes I wanted to share on the practice test and in program workshop. And that actually sums up all the major items that we wanted to share. Can I open it up now for any questions you all may have? Okay, well, I will take that as a great sign that you are all dangerous in program workshop and you know your way around and can navigate with ease. So hopefully you're looking forward to these new changes. I hope that they will make the experience for you in program workshop and for your students better. And if you haven't registered yet for the fall and spring testing season, please do so at your earliest convenience. We'll be sending out reminders. Thank you, Lisa. And with that, I wish you all a pleasant afternoon and a great, fantastic school year ahead. Thank you for joining.